Hello everybody and welcome back to Piano Practice Partner. It's lesson 2 already. I hope you enjoyed lesson 1 and that you found it useful and easy to understand. I also hope that you managed to check out the supplementary practice along session and had a little practice once or twice this week. If you didn't, then no worries, there's no rush. There's some rush, don't want to fall too far behind. But if you haven't had a chance to go over that yet, maybe just stick that on and practice along, because we'll be moving on today. And if anything doesn't make sense from this session, please go back and review lesson 1 and then come back to lesson 2 and so on and so forth. So we're right at the beginning of our piano learning journey, and in the spirit of learning, I'm wanting to learn from you. So if there's anything you would find useful in these lessons, if there's something that didn't make sense in the first lesson, as we move forward, feel free to just drop a comment below. I'll make sure I read them and start building that into my practice and workflow so that I can better communicate with you and we can learn some piano more efficiently and more effectively. Fantastic. So let's just take a quick recap of what we learned last session in lesson 1. So to begin with, we looked at this confusing contraption, the piano, the keyboard. And rather than being overwhelmed that there were just so many keys to understand, we figured out that actually there was only 12 keys that repeat. And we identified that we start with this note here, typically called middle C. And that this was a C, and that this was a C, and this was a C. Every note that is directly below these two black notes is a C. So we can orientate ourselves around the keyboard by looking out for that note. Instead of all of these notes, just the 12 notes. And we identified them as C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, then back to the C. We then realized that for a scale, instead of 12 notes, there were only 8. So there's fewer things to worry about. And for C major, we understood that we didn't use any of the black notes and it was just the white notes from C to C. So we played up the sequence and down the sequence. And we also learned how to arrange our hand so that we can move up and down. And that went something like this, just to refresh our memories. And with our left hand, it went like this. We then spent a bit of time looking at both hands together because they have to transition at different points. And in the practice session, we spent a bit of time going over the right hand, the left hand, then combining them. And that looked a little bit something like this. We then tried to understand what a major chord was and how it was made up. And we learned that it was comprised of the first, the third, and the fifth note of the scale. So in C major, we figured out that it was the first note of the scale, which is the C, the third note of the scale, which is the E, because we missed out the D, 1, 2, 3, and then up to the fifth note, G, C, E, G, first, third, and fifth. And we added some root notes in our bass hand and our left hand. We then took that same concept and applied it to the F. So we figured out what the first note of F was, the second note of F, and the fifth note of F, with the root and the bass. And then we spent some time just playing between F and C. So, lesson 2, let's dive right in by adding our third chord. So last time as I said, we've learned C major and F major. We're going to add G major. But before we do, let's take a recap of how we found a major scale, because I think this will be really important. So to find a major scale for any of these keys, can you remember the little trick we learned? So for C major, we learned that there needs to be a certain spacing of notes. It's not just going up all the white keys, even though that is what we're doing. We're missing out keys, essentially, along the way. And we miss out a very specific sequence of keys. So let me bring in this little whiteboard. I did say last time I might get a little whiteboard. And I've gone and done that immediately. So we learned that from C to D, we're missing out this black key here. If we were to go from the C immediately to the next key, which is C sharp, that'd be known as a half note. So if we're moving immediately to the next key in the sequence, it's a half note. Now, if we went from C to D, we're skipping over this black note here, this C sharp. And so we'd call this a whole note because we've skipped over a key. And that is the same for D to E. We're skipping over this black key here, so this would be a whole note. That'd be a half note. And so we figured out that C major was C to D. What is that? That's a whole note. From D to E. That's another whole note because we've skipped out this black key. Now from E to F, is this a whole or a half? It's correct, it's a half because there's no key between the two. It's the immediate key next to it, so it's a half note. So far we've gone whole, whole, half, whole, whole, half. The next one, whole or half. It's a half. It's a whole. Sorry. Oh, blimey! Not even I'm messing up. Because we've missed out this black key here. It's another whole. Whole or half. Whole because we've missed out this black key here. Whole or half. Exactly right. You're getting the hang of this now because we've missed out this black key here, and then this one. Whole or half. It is a half because there is no note between. So this sequence, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, applies to any major key. So whatever key we start on, in this case C major, would follow this sequence. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. And that's how we were able to figure out our first, our third, and our fifth to make up that major chord. So we know the notes that are the first notes, the third notes, and the fifth notes of that scale. We took this and we applied it to F, if you remember. So let's just do that now. To start an F, so we're going to have to play a whole note. So what would that next note be? We'd skip this, and that'd be our whole. Another whole note from here. That's right, it would skip that black key here to be there. So we've gone whole, whole. Now a half note would be the black key there. Another whole. So we'd skip this white key here to the next white key because that is the key between these two. And then another whole. Skip this black key. That's right. Another whole. So we'd skip this black key. And then a half key. Fantastic. So let's just do that in sequence so we can hear it with more legibility. Whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Great. So this is how we find any major key. Now, we said we're about to learn G major. Now, what would that be? So let's figure out what the G major scale is, because then we can figure out our first third and fifth note of that scale to make the major chord. It's magic. So let's start on G. Here is G. And again, as I said earlier, if we're still struggling to figure out which notes are which, we can always orientate ourselves from the C. So we can come back to C and we just count up C, D, E, F, G. So it's this one right here. Sorry if my two fingers confused that. It's not very helpful, is it? C, D, E, F, G. Right here. This is G. So let's apply this to the G. So we're starting on G. So whole note. Skip this black note. Next whole note, skip this black note. Half note, so it'd be immediately there. Another whole note, so we'd skip here. Another whole note. And then another whole note. So we wouldn't come here, would we? Because we need this note between the two, so we'd come up to this black key. And then a half note. Back to our G. Magic! Just by knowing this, and just being able to count whether there's a note next to it or a note between it, we've figured out every key. So let's do that again. G, starting on G, whole note, half note, whole note, whole note, whole note, half note. Hey, we've now learned the G major scale. Look at that. So exciting. So now let's find our first, our third, and our fifth. Remember last time, often Roman numerals are used to express the numbers in music. I don't know why, but that's just the way it is. So we're trying to find the first, the third, and the fifth. So our first, very simply, is G. So now that we know the scale, there's our third note, the B. And where's our fifth note? That's our fifth. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this D. So it's G, B, D. There's our G major. We've learnt our third chord. So let's put the three chords together. We have C major. We have F major. And we have G major. Beautiful. Now you'll notice that the hand positioning is very similar. We're pretty much just picking up our hand and plonking it down on the F. Picking up, plonking it. Now I could have just told you that. I could have just been like, just make this position. And just keep moving up and down. And I think the reason why I wanted to start this channel is because there are so many videos out there that do that. They just go, just do this. But not understanding why it's that way, I think leads you into trouble. Because look, if we do this same hand positioning, G, F, C, sounds beautiful. What happens if I take it to the E? Sounds all right, sounds nice. But is that E major? This is C major, this is F major, G major, and then if I take this exact same hand position and put it on the E, sounds a bit different, doesn't it? Why? Because it's not the first, the third, and the fifth that we're playing. Even though the hand positioning is the same, we haven't figured out what the whole, half is of E major. So if we just understood it as these three fingers like this do a major chord, that's actually wrong, because this is E minor. Let's prove that to ourselves. Let's test that theory by figuring out the scale, which we've learnt here, for E major. So we're starting on E. Let's find our next whole note. It's not here. We're skipping straight to this black note. Next whole note. It's not the white note again, because we have to have a note between. So it's this black note. Then a half. Then a whole. Then a whole. So we're skipping here to this other black note. Then another whole. And then a half. So there's actually quite a lot of black notes in this sequence. I'll just play it a bit more, a bit faster so we can see the motion and hear it. And so by playing this hand position, I said this wasn't the third, so let's count up. So this is our first. So where's our second note? It's not here, it's this black key. Where's our third note? It's not here, it's this black key. Then the half for the fourth, and then fifth. So actually, the first, the third, and the fifth of E major is here with this black note. So if we were just told to keep our hand in this position and move up and down the keyboard, and then thought, why doesn't that sound the same? My hand's doing exactly the same thing. It's because we haven't understood how the chords are constructed. Any major chord is the first, the third, and the fifth, and we know how to find the scale. So by applying that, we figured out that the third is actually this note. So instead of being the same hand position for E, we'd have to shift our hand slightly to make this E major. Hey, look, we've now learned a fourth chord just by proving the concept, to prove why it's useful to know this stuff, right? And I think it's really exciting because we're not only just learning how to play chords, we're also understanding the theory behind it so that we can progress and learn more, right? We're building a really strong foundation. This may be slightly tedious and you're like, I just want to play some pop songs. But this will really, really help. Trust me, we're on this learning journey together. And I'm super excited to like understand the mechanics so that then I know how songs are made. But let's calm down. I'm getting excited. I'm getting ahead of myself.
Daddy, chill.
What?
So we've learned C major, we've learned F major, and now we've learned G major. We've now inadvertently learned E major. And then back to C. So let's just try going between C, F, G, F, C. And I'm putting the root in the left hand. By that I mean I'm just playing like the root note, so the one. So C, F, G, F, C. Adding that with the chord. C, F, G, F, C. And again, C, F, G, F, C. Amazing. Well done. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, maybe go back and just rewatch some bits. I'll try and consolidate and articulate that maybe a bit smoother next lesson. So we've learned C, F, G, and E major as well. Let's just put that one to the side for a second because there's a more important chord that we're going to learn now. So let me get rid of this. Put some elbow grease in. Probably should have got a proper whiteboard rubber. It's for the next purchase that I get sent to my house. So we're going to look at our very first minor chord. So far we've learned all major chords. And we also heard that when we tried this E chord in that same hand position, it sounded different. And we learned that it's because this note, this finger here, the third, was down a tone. It was down a little half step, wasn't it? So that was the major. And that's the minor. So what's happening there? The third note, the major third, is moving down half a step. And that makes it a minor third. Okay, kind of makes sense. Well, let's try it with one of the other major chords that we know. Let's try it with C. This, I think, is our most familiar chord. C, E, G. The first, the third, and the fifth. So if we take our third note and we shift it down half a step, Hear the difference? It's now the minor C, C minor. And all we're doing is we're taking our third note and moving it down half a step. C major, and then we move our third note down half a step. Amazing. Now we've got two chords that we know from C, C major and C minor. Let's take that theory and apply it to F. So this was our F major chord. So where's our third note in this scale? It's this finger here. We're just going to take this half a step down. Now we know F minor. Again, we're learning this for theory for other stuff, but we're accidentally learning chords along the way. We've got so many chords, we don't know what to do with them all. Blimey. F major, flatten the third. F minor. Okay, let's go to the G. G major. So what are we going to do? We're going to take this third note and we're going to put it down half a note. G minor. G major? G minor. Oh my goodness. It's all making sense to me all of a sudden. After trying for so long to understand how stuff works, suddenly he's like, oh, all you do is that, and it just becomes the minor. It's the third goes down. I'm sorry, again, I'm getting excited. I'll calm down. Hopefully you're with me. Hopefully you're on board. That we just flatten this third note. And by flatten, I mean we take it down half a step, wherever that step may be. Okay, so we are now going to learn another chord. We're going to learn A major. So we need to find A, which is here. Again, if we need to orientate ourselves, C, D, E, F, G, A. Sooner or later, by doing that enough, we would just begin to know where the notes are on the keyboard just by sight. But it's always good to go back and check. C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay, so let's find out A major. Now, do you remember, I've just wiped it off, but do you remember how we found the major scale? Whole note. Whole note. So we skip here. Half note. Whole note. Whole note. Whole note. Half note. It's quite a tricky one, this. I'm not going to spend too long on it. Whole note. Whole note. Half note. Whole note. Whole note, whole note, then a half note. Cool. So our first, and where was our third? 2, 3, so it's 3 here. And then our fifth, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 3, and 5. So this is A major. Again, really useful to know how to find the 1, 3, 5, because if we were just relying upon this technique, it wouldn't apply to this A major chord. There's the A major. Beautiful. However, today we're not interested in the A major. We want to find the minor. And how do we find the minor? We flatten the third. We take the third note down half a step. So here's our third note. So we take it down half a step. So this is A minor. And believe it or not, it is the same finger pattern or sort of hand pattern as the G major, the F major, and the C. But I wanted to explain it so that you're not just blindly holding this hand in a position and going, this is just how we make music. We now know this is a minor. Even though the hand position doesn't change, it's a minor chord, A minor. So now we've got, I'm going to put the root in as well just to fill out the sound. We've got C major. We've got F major. We've got G major. And we've got A minor. I'll do that again. C major. F major, G major, A minor. Okay, so why have we just learned a random minor chord when we were having a lovely time with the majors? This now unlocks a lot of different options for us. If we just listen to the chords, already we get a sense that there's something there, something more than just chords. We can start to hear a structure moving away from our root, the C, into some musical territory, then back to our root, which feels like a return to home. A lot of songs are arranged within this structure, and we're focusing on the C. You can take this and apply it to any other key, but we're just sticking with C for now because this is going to be our home for the next couple of weeks as we get to grips with the theory. So a lot of songs are arranged. Again, we're going to go back to Roman numerals. The chords are arranged as such. They go from the first chord to the fifth chord, then over to the sixth chord, and then the fourth chord. Now, what do I mean by that? So in the same way that we found our first, our third, and our fifth notes when we're going up the scale to find our major scale, we're just taking this and applying it to C. So our first chord would be the C, because we're starting on C. Our fifth, well, let's count up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's the G. Our sixth, well, if we know this is the fifth, then it's the A minor there. And then our fourth, we go back to, there's our fourth. So it's the chords that we've just learned, but instead of playing them just up in order and down in order, we're now arranging them to go from the first chord to the fifth chord to the sixth chord to the fourth chord, and then we'll go back to the one. So that would sound like this. The first, C, the fifth, G, the sixth, A minor, and then the fourth, F major. So I'll play that a few times. The Axis of Awesome did an amazing skit where they cycled these four chords. This was years ago, on early days of YouTube. And they sang every pop song under the sun, it seemed, to these four chords. You can go look that up. But it is true. Like, think of any pop song that probably fits with this, you know? Amazing. So, we've learnt so much. By learning the C, the G, the A minor, and the F, you can find any pop song that you like and see if it fits to this. You've probably got ideas in your head right now as I cycle this through. Imagine all the people. It just fits, right? It's just following the sequence. So why not have a little play in your own time and just find what songs fit to this? There are so many, and if you're unsure, just look up the Axis of Awesome. I think they're playing it in a different key, but the principle still applies. Amazing. Well done, everybody. We'll break this down to an actual song maybe in the next lesson. But just for now, I think that's so much to be digesting and understanding. Amazing, everybody. I think we'll call it there for lesson 2. There's a lot to take in there, so thank you for going with me. I know that may seem like a lot, but I'm really excited, and I hope that has all made sense. I will recap it at the start of the next video as well, and hopefully by then you and I will have consolidated some of that information a bit more, so it'll be easier to digest. But it really is worth sticking with, rather than blindly and idly moving your hand up and down in a claw. Taking that time, as we've done today, to understand how the chords are constructed, why that is not a major chord, that's a major chord, but also using that to understand what makes a minor chord, because now we know that that is the C major, and we flatten the third to make a minor chord. So we're learning a lot of theory that has a real practical application immediately. It's not like we've got out textbooks and we're trying to study and cram all this dry information. Hopefully, by doing it in this manner, we're understanding the use of this, which will then mean by laying these really strong foundations, when we get to the trickier material, the more challenging material, we'll have a really good, solid position to work from. So it's really exciting. Well done for taking this journey, for continuing to turn up. I'll be posting a practice along video shortly in which we'll do a timer, and then I'll give you some exercises to do, and together we'll go through in real time that practice session so that you're not having to sort of guess or, half-arse it and just do 2 minutes and scroll on social media. We're doing some like half an hour's practice, and to get those reps in. Those reps will really help. So thank you so much. If you like the channel, remember to subscribe so you don't miss a video. If you have any friends that are wanting to learn the piano, now's a good time because, we're right at the start, so they're not going to fall behind. So it's really a good time to encourage those musical people in your life. And again, thank you so much for your time, your patience, and I'll see you very soon for lesson number 3.